We run a Turo business with over 50 vehicles in our fleet. We're going to go over everything from choosing the right vehicle to how to operate and manage an entire fleet and the biggest issues and obstacles that you need to overcome when getting started. Let's get into it. So what exactly is Turo? Turo is a peer-to-peer car sharing platform. So for those familiar with Airbnb, think of it as Airbnb for vehicles. So what makes it different than traditional rental companies? Well, with Turo, Turo handles everything from the marketing to the insurance to actually finding you clients and giving you an operating system that makes it efficient to do guest check-ins, communicate with guests, and everything else you can think of, taking out a lot of the headaches that come when doing private rentals, which I do private rentals and Turo, but I prefer Turo for a lot of reasons. To get started on Turo, all you need is a vehicle that's 12 years or newer and under 130,000 miles. You simply take photos, list the vehicle, and put it on Turo, and Turo does the rest to find you customers and takes care of the different insurance plans that they have through the platform. Now, I may be oversimplifying it a little bit, but that's the gist of what Turo is. Anybody can rent on Turo. You don't have to be a business to actually list a vehicle on Turo, so the vehicle can be under your personal name when putting it on the platform. And Turo takes the headache out of having to find insurance, having to find clients, having to get reimbursements from clients. Whenever the car gets damaged, they help you with the insurance and also pay you. And it is the platform I highly recommend when first getting started in a car rental business. It's a great crash course into getting you started on what you need to know to be a business owner. And you can always transition to private rentals later, but like I said, I recommend Turo for this. And they are #1 in the United States when it comes to market share. And the two competitors they have at the time of this video are Getaround and Hire Car. And Uber actually came out with their own platform called Uber Car Share, but they got rid of that and just scratched it because Turo ended up making a deal and acquiring that. So now they're teaming up to form a mega team. So we're going to see how that plays out as well. So when listing a car on Turo, you put the car's VIN in, you take photos of the vehicle, you write up a nice description, and then it's off to the races. Turo will actually even price the car if you decide to go with their automated pricing, which is called dynamic pricing, where they look at the supply and demand in your area, as well as the year, make, and model of your car to determine the best price to make sure it's rented out for the highest profit possible. You can also go in and adjust it and add your own custom pricing in, but we'll talk more about that in another video. So all that's really needed to get started on Turo is to have a car that fits the criteria to be put on the platform and some sort of smartphone to take photos and then also manage the fleet, or you can also use your laptop, but I definitely recommend the Turo app. I think it's a little bit better than the desktop in some ways, especially when it comes to checking in the vehicles because you can do everything from your phone. And to rent vehicles on Turo, you just have to be 18 years or older, have a valid driver's license. And as far as Turo's policies go, the vehicle has to be 12 years or newer. It can't have any open recalls, which you can always take it to the dealership and have that fixed for free as long as it's one they have a remedy for. That's why when buying a car specifically for Turo, I always recommend checking for any open safety recalls before you list the car, because I've had experiences with some of my Kia Souls where I had to sell them because they didn't actually have a fix for it for 6 months, and I can't let a car sit for 6 months and not earn rental income. It doesn't make any sense. So when sourcing a vehicle, make sure that you check for an open safety recall on it. So like I said, 12 years or newer, open safety recalls, you can't have any. And then the car also has to have under 130,000 miles. Well, George, what about insurance? Well, with Turo, you can actually choose different insurance plans for your trips, and you can put different vehicles on different insurance plans. I break down the different insurance plans in some other videos we have on here, so I'm not going to go too in depth on it. But just to give you an example, Turo has one plan called the 80 plan, where you take home 80% of the earnings. So if you get a trip booked for $100, you get $80 of it, Turo gets 20, and that's their fee for doing the marketing, finding you a client, and also covering you for the trip, so you have insurance during it. And you can also get as aggressive as having a 90 plan where you earn 90% of the earnings and Turo only takes 10, but that's going to come with different deductibles, and we break that down in more videos on our channel that you can check out. But just to give you an example, the 80 plan comes with a $750 deductible, meaning you pay $750 towards the damages before anything's covered by Turo. And then when you go up to a 90 plan, that deductible comes to $2,500. So that's really only helping you if the car's in a major accident, like it's totaled or side impact. something like that. So that's the riskiest plan, but with risk comes reward because you're bringing in 90% total earnings on that. And remember guys, Turo's policies are always changing, so make sure you take a look at their policies before listing with them. Make sure that your insurance company that you use, that you have your car on, covers your car when it's rented on Turo, because sometimes policies will be void if the insurance company finds out you're using your vehicle for commercial use, and that varies state by state. So really pay attention to the insurance. Those are the biggest horror stories I've ever heard when it comes to the platform. Most people that have a negative experience renting their vehicles on Turo is because they didn't take a chance to look into the policy in depth. They didn't call up their insurance provider. They didn't know about off-rental insurance, which you can actually get for like only $50 to $100 a month. And people that work with us at carrentalcoach.com, we help find them the best insurance providers. We make sure that they're completely covered. So when there's an accident, they are good every single time. So if you're interested in working with us directly, like hundreds of other students have all across the United States, go to carrentalcoach.com, fill out our quick 60-second survey, and you'll work with us directly to make sure that your car is not only rented all the time, that you're finding the right vehicle to make sure that you're earning the highest ROI possible. And lastly, that insurance is so huge, guys. I can't stress that enough, to make sure you are paid out every time there is a claim and to make sure that you are not at loss. But let's get back to it. So I always say the most important part about your Turo business is choosing the right car for the platform. From my experience and then working with hundreds of other clients, economy cars tend to do the best on Turo. Don't get fooled by their marketing where they put the fancy vehicles on the homepage of Turo. Those are not what brings in the money. Economy cars are. Here's some tips on finding the right vehicle. First thing you're going to want to do is do a market analysis of your area. You're going to want to look at the top performing cars in your area. So you'll go on the Turo platform like you're a guest. Search for the cars. Do it a few months in the future so the cars aren't booked, because if the cars are booked already, it won't show up on your search results when you're doing this. I like to filter it by all-star hosts, which are the top-rated hosts on Turo. The reason I do that, all-star hosts are the ones that are making the most money because they've had the most success on the platform. See what type of vehicles they're renting, look at how many reviews there are, and that's going to give you a really good idea about your market and what type of cars are going to perform. So always look at who's the best in your market, who has the most cars, and then I recommend copying them and trying to source similar vehicles. When it comes to sourcing the vehicles, there's a few ways you can do it. One, go on Facebook Marketplace. That's going to be a great place to find cars. But remember, buyer beware. Make sure you do your due diligence. I recommend getting a Carfax report, looking at the maintenance records, service history on the vehicle to see if it's been in any accidents, if it's a rebuilt title, which you can't put rebuilt titles on Turo, and make sure it's completely clean, as well as going out to check the vehicle out in person and test driving it. That's very important. Another thing you can do, go to a used car dealership and finance through them, which is also not a bad option, but again, it's the same thing. You got to do your own due diligence, make sure that this car dealership you're going to has good reviews, still look at the Carfax on the vehicle, and that's going to make a major difference when it comes to sourcing it. And you could also go on the old legendary Craigslist. I like Craigslist as well, but since we have a dealer license here in Pittsburgh, what we do, we usually go to auctions and get trade-ins so we can get the best deals on our vehicles possible. And if you work with us at carrentalcoach.com, we actually guarantee that we can purchase your cars for you at 20% under market value, and we ship to all 50 states. And that's what a lot of our clients do, so we take the headache of the whole getting started process for them away. We get trackers installed, put the car through a strenuous safety check, and then we have them shipped right to your door, so all you have to do is list the car on Turo, and then we coach you through the entire process. Another thing you can do, if you don't have money to actually purchase a vehicle, you can find a friend, a family member, or business partner that already has a car, but doesn't want to do the work to put it on Turo and rent it out themselves. That's something that's called co-hosting. So some of the largest fleets in the whole United States do a lot of co-hosting where you can ship them your car and they'll rent it out for you. And sometimes they do like a 60-40 split, 70-30, all depends. Every agreement's different. But if you're somebody that's serious about starting this business, but you don't have the capital to do so, find a car from a family member, a friend, or even approach somebody that owns a car dealership or even a used car dealership that might not be that tech savvy, that makes all of their money off selling cars, and you can manage the cars for them and rent them out and make a nice healthy profit. And make sure when you do that, you have an agreement in place that specifies the responsibilities between both parties. Treat it like a business, even if it is a family or friend member, just so if anything bad happens, you are completely covered. But that's a great way to make money if you are just starting out, or if you have a fleet and want to expand, bring more cars into your fleet. And then when it comes to pricing strategy, so Every market's different, so this doesn't work for every single market. But look at dynamic pricing. I always recommend to do that first. So that's when Turo looks at the supply and the demand in your area, and they're going to price the car somewhere in the middle to make sure that you're getting maximized earnings. After you start with dynamic pricing, I recommend starting to explore and become more advanced yourself by doing competitive analysis, looking at your market. And I like to do increments of around $3 to $5 a day, either increasing or decreasing, to see how the cars get booked. I don't recommend going from $20 a day higher or $20 a day lower. $3 to $5 increments really seem to pick up business, and it's going to put the most money in your pocket. And also, guys, keep in mind seasonal demand when doing pricing. Make sure that on Christmas, Thanksgiving, holidays like that you're keeping your prices higher, and go into the calendar and adjust that yourselves. Or remember, there are such things as local events that Turo's algorithm is not going to pick up on. For example, I'm in Pittsburgh, and every time we have a home Steelers game, the prices go crazy. So Turo doesn't see that, and they don't adjust the pricing for me with dynamic pricing. So we go in there and adjust it for every Steeler game, and every single car is booked. So if you're in a hometown where there's a popular concert, a sports event, or any other large event, make sure that you keep that in mind, that Turo may be good with their dynamic pricing, but they're not going to know your market as well as you do. So make sure you stay up to date on that so you can really capitalize and maximize on your prices when adjusting them. And the way I typically look at the demand, I see which vehicles in my fleet sit for 48 hours. Once a car sat for 48 hours, I usually do the $3 to $5 increment, all depending on the market, when I look at other hosts in the area and I do my analysis. But my rule of thumb, if the car sits for 48 hours, at that point, lower your pricing by $3 to $5. If it sits for another day, lower it by another $3 to $5. And then believe me, you keep doing that, the car is going to get booked. All right, so there are a lot of challenges in the Turo business and a lot of obstacles to overcome. I'm going to walk you guys through a few of them. So one common challenge is maintenance with cars. So you want to make sure that you put these cars on a maintenance schedule. Always be checking the cars for oil changes when they need them. Pretty easy to do. Look at the sticker on the vehicle, check the miles, but also keep a Google sheet or an Excel sheet or something to manage your rentals to keep them on a maintenance record. Always check the tires in between trips, and you want to drive these vehicles around yourself a little bit just to test out the brakes and any other weird noises, because we know with cars, a lot of things can go wrong, and if you start putting cars out on the platform that aren't well maintained, that's not going to look good for your business. You're going to get kicked off of Turo, you're going to get bad reviews from guests, and you're never going to be able to grow this to a multiple six-figure business like I have. And again, guys, customer service is so important with this business, and when it comes to good customer service, you want to make sure you're answering your customers promptly. And you want to take advantage of something called Turo automated messages, where you can actually set up messages with certain triggers. For example, I have one message in there that goes out 15 minutes after a trip ends, and it asks the guests for a review if they had a positive experience. Before Turo's automated messages, I had to type out each one of these messages individually, and with over 50 cars in the fleet, that became a full-time job just communicating with guests. So take advantage of the automated messages. In addition to that, make sure that you're responding to people in a timely manner. And really, guys, you want to keep the cars clean, you want to keep them well maintained, and you want to make sure that they're there on time. There's a lot of Turo hosts that I hear stories about that, somebody has a booking at 5, they have the car ready at 5:30. That's not how you do business, and anybody's going to be upset. So just keep your word. Do what you say you're going to do. Make sure the car is in good condition, cleaned, well maintained, and that it's there on time. And when it comes to handling issues like accidents, don't freak out. They're going to happen. Don't panic when your car is in an accident. Just follow the proper tools and procedures that Turo gives you. So before the trip starts, make sure you have immaculate photos of the car from the interior to the exterior that's going to cover you in case there is something that happens with the vehicle, which it's most likely to happen eventually. I've had probably 15 cars totaled over my 4 years being a Turo host, so that's a fairly decent amount. So make sure that you're always just photographing the cars. You follow Turo's procedures when it comes to insurance. Don't freak out. Don't lash out on the guest and say anything mean because they crashed your car. And don't be upset if they crash your car and don't even tell you about it, because it's going to happen. Just follow the proper procedures and make sure that you keep a professional level when dealing with the guests, because you don't want to get emotional when it comes to this. It's a business, and at the end of the day, your cars are going to get wrecked, but you will be compensated and sometimes do very, very well if you use the right tools. Another thing, people will cancel the trips too. Don't be upset about that. I remember when I first started, I used to be really upset if I had to go drive to the lot where we keep our cars at to go check in a guest, hand them the keys, and then 10 minutes later, or 10 minutes before their trip, they end up canceling. You would still get like a cancellation fee, but it wasn't that much really. Like it just wasn't worth even the gas to go out there. But don't get upset, don't take it out on the guest. But ever since then, I have my business completely automated where I don't even need to meet the guests now. And that's how I recommend setting it up, which we have a whole program for that at carrentalcoach.com. But you want to set it up so it's automated, so even when somebody cancels, you're not driving to your vehicle and meeting them in the pouring down rain or something like I did when I started. It's not fun, especially when you're not making the money. So other ways you can maximize your earnings, you can offer discounts for repeat customers. That's something I do often. Everybody that books with me and leaves the car in good condition, I give a 10% discount to. That brings back lots of repeat business. You could also offer discounts for longer usage. So you can offer, say, like a 20% discount for somebody that wants to book a month, a 5% discount for somebody that wants to book a week. But play around with these discounts because they're really going to help you get more customers, and it's going to make your car stand out from the crowd when they see that discount. If somebody's offering 10% off for a week and another car that's similarly priced isn't, I know which one I'm going to go for. And the best thing you can do to maximize your earnings on Turo is, number one, pick the right car that's going to have the highest ROI. So that's why the market analysis is so important. But number two, run the business right. Make sure that your cars are well maintained, they're clean, they run well, and do what you say you're going to do with your customers, and you're going to keep getting 5-star ratings every time, and you're going to start building a business. I would say about 60% of my business right now is repeat customers that have been with me for years because I do everything I say I'm going to. The key to getting repeat customers is no secret. It's running a good operation, a good healthy business, and you're going to exceed and excel past your competition. Because a lot of people treat this like a part-time thing and they don't take it seriously. So if you want to be the top person in your market, run this thing like an efficient business and you'll be number one in no time. Like I said earlier, really pay attention to the different Turo insurance plans. So they go from 60 to 90% of what you can earn. They all offer different benefits. We have another video that goes into this and breaks it down very in depth. But really, you have to look at your market. You need to look at how many accidents your car is getting into, and you have to calculate what plan makes the most sense with insurance. Right now, I have some cars on the 80 plan and some on the 90 plan. It really all depends, and it's something you really have to dig into the data to figure out. But that is one of the major things that can impact your earnings on Turo. Guys, there's always going to be challenges in the Turo business, just like every other business out there. And you're going to want to make sure that you're constantly overcoming those obstacles. So some of the common challenges you're going to face are, number one, maintenance of the vehicles. Cars are going to need repaired, they're going to need regular maintenance and inspections. You're going to need oil changes, checking the tires regularly, also driving the cars to ensure quality. But make sure that you're maintaining your vehicles regularly. And then when an accident does happen or a car breaks down, don't freak out. Make sure you have partnerships in place that are going to be beneficial to both of you. Find a few good mechanics in your area and make sure that you let them know you're going to be doing a lot of business, and build relationships in the car industry because that's going to be crucial to making sure you get fairly priced work and actually being able to grow this thing. Another thing you're going to run into, make sure you manage your bookings. With the maintenance part, what we do, we have a Excel sheet where we keep all of our vehicles history on when it comes to maintenance, as well as oil changes, when inspection's up, all that kind of stuff. It's very nice to have that all in one place. But when it comes to bookings, we usually use Turo's calendar, but we have a few things we also do. So, for example, if you have a guest that you know is going to be renting the vehicle for a very long time, what I recommend you do is you snooze the car, because that way nobody else can book it while they're renting the car. We get a lot of guests that rent day by day, meaning they pay each day and keep extending their trip. And the worst thing that could happen is if somebody wanted to rent the car for a month, they're paying day by day, and you have another person come in and rent the car, say like a week into this person's trip. That means that guest is gonna have to bring the car back even though they would have been renting it for maybe a month. So you cut their trip short, and then you have to get the car ready for the next guest, which is just a complete hassle. And then a lot of times you have to put that guest in another car that's returning the vehicle that would have just been happy with keeping that same car and extending day by day. So make sure you manage your bookings efficiently. If you have guests like that, snooze it so that doesn't happen, so it's just not more hassle and work for you. On top of that, make sure you put buffers on your trips. A buffer meaning the time period where nobody else can book the car once the car is returned. So we usually do a 3-hour buffer. That means if Susie drops the car off at 6 p.m., that means nobody can book it until 9 p.m., giving us 3 hours to check the vehicle for fluids, make sure it's still maintained well, no accidents, and also detail and make sure the car is cleaned. So we have a full-time rental car manager that helps us with all the bookings now, but make sure you guys are managing it properly. You don't want trip overlaps. You want to make sure you give yourself enough time to check the vehicles out, and you don't want to be running around like a nut. You want it to be very smooth and efficient. And when it comes to troubleshooting, there's always going to be some sort of issue that you run into. Make sure you read Turo's terms and services, their policies, watch videos like mine, and also just call Turo customer support if there's something where maybe it's a question and you don't know if you're allowed to do something. It's better to be safe than sorry in this industry, especially when we're talking about cars that are high priced, and also there's a lot of liability. So make sure you get somebody on the phone that knows what they're talking about, or you sign up for coaching here at carrentalcoach.com, fill out our quick 60-second survey, work with us one-on-one, and we'll make sure that you don't have any of those headaches and you know how to handle every single situation. So to recap, we talked about how to source cars, how to manage your cars effectively, and just how Turo works in general. But we always love to hear from you guys, so we'd love in the comments below for you to comment about how your Turo journey is going, or if you want to start a Turo business, comment down below and let us know how it's going. We'd love to hear from you guys every week. And as always, go to carrentalcoach.com to work with me one-on-one, and we'll make sure we get you to where you need to be. And if you thought this video was helpful, you have to see this video about the best cars to get started with on Turo. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.